And a good Friday night, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We have not been with you on a Friday night in a while, but I sort of felt in the mood to come on and run my mouth a little bit tonight. We're grateful to see everybody. God, family, country, in that order. Famous last words of the late Charlie Kirk, an American hero and sadly a martyr for his beliefs and faith that we still remember tonight. And wore this shirt proudly today. We're grateful to see everybody tonight, and we got a lot to talk about. This is a late night show, and things tend to be a little bit lighter during the nighttime, and no guests tonight, just going to be me, and we'll get back to the guests coming next week, but it's good to see everybody piling into the house, and we've got a lot to talk about. It's 11:44 in the East. We're 15 minutes away to officially end Juneteenth, which is the biggest joke in the history of jokes that this country celebrates. And excuse me, my hair looks like lurch tonight. I'm sorry. Oh, all I want for Christmas is my hair and my teeth. And my hair and my teeth, I think is what I'm going to ask Santa Claus for. Anyway, we're grateful to have you tonight. No, this Juneteenth thing, we got some thoughts about that tonight. We're going to talk about Israel and Iran a little bit more. Show you some videos and get your thoughts. So hang out with us tonight. And I don't care if you talk, folks, while we're talking, but please, no big paragraphs, just sentences. And then when you get to the end, if you want to talk and say something, do it. I give people a chance to talk at the end. Nobody talks at the end. They just want to talk while I'm talking. Don't do that. But I don't care if you insert a comment or two. But just keep it on topic. Keep it on topic, and no links and all that good stuff. That's all we've ever asked you. I don't think it's asking too much. And but we're just grateful to have you tonight. Today is Juneteenth. This is when the left hijacked today to celebrate, as they call it, the end of slavery, and to bring attention to the oppression of Republicans, as the left likes to say. And we're going to talk about that tonight. How we get ourselves in these messes, I do not know. How this country gets itself. And we're not going to be talking about it so much tonight. We're going to deal with this more Monday night. Ricky Wilson will not be with us this Monday, but next Monday week, she'll be back with us, which is good. We'll have a special guest Monday night. I do want to start the show off tonight with a couple of things. One thing is very sad to report tonight. Jason Miller, our dear buddy, that he's been on the show before, and we're going to still try to get him on before the 4th, because I wanted to talk with him about Israel and America and our 250-year history of this country, and then Israel's 70th anniversary and how the two nations are connected. We're going to do a special show on that. And then we're going to talk about America. We're going to celebrate America 250 all of July. Every show in July is going to be a celebration of America, and we'll have a lot of specials that month. It's going to be a rough month because we're going to be traveling quite a bit with Caleb and other things. And our conference in New York, July 24th, 25th, 26th. Looking forward to being back at the Acts 242 Center. But I'm sorry to report tonight that Jason's mother, Judy, is passed. She passed this afternoon, 1:11 Central Standard Time. I'm not making that up. And when I saw that, I sort of glanced again. And I told Jason, I said, that's my birthday. And he said, you're not, he said, it's crazy. He said, my sister was talking about how 111 was big in the family and so forth. So, but we're honored. We're going to be having the officiating the service Wednesday. And I'm sure Jason will be posting things on his Facebook. I don't want to do that tonight. I want to give the family a time to mourn and grieve and respect their privacy. But do be praying for the Miller family tonight. He's a good man. Kim, him, JC, just precious beyond words. Miss Judy was precious. We got to meet her in Nashville back in 22. Saw her. a couple of times since then, talked to her by phone on her birthdays. Jason would text me, says, my mom watches you religiously. And I got to tell you a little funny story real quick tonight. I shared it, I think, with the Bible study. Monday night was a week ago. Miss Judy came home to stay with Jason and Kim. Hospice had sort of saw the signs that this was coming. And I may have been this past Monday night. I know I wore the hat this past Monday night. But anyway, she loved that cowboy hat. And Kim told me, she says, you don't know, with everything going on, she said, Jason's mom had a lot of pain, going through a lot of stuff. And she said, but she told us, she said, I want you to record that show right there with McDonald with that cowboy hat. And she said, we had it on loop the whole night on Monday night. And that was the kind of sweet lady she was. Judy was just a sweetheart. God bless her heart. 87 years old. And it saddened me today because she was always so kind to me, very, very, very gracious. And I got to talk to her on her birthdays a few times and prayed with her and wished her happy birthday. And it meant, Jason said, it meant the world to her for me to do that. And I just hated it. It's almost like my own mother today. It felt like it a little bit, to be frank with you. But it was sad news. We do pray for the Millers. And I want to just say this tonight about my dear friend Betty Powell. We had a beautiful lunch with her today. She's not doing well. And she turned 94 this week. And I want to wish her another happy birthday tonight. Took her out to dinner. And her health is deteriorating to the point she told me today may be the last time I get to do that. She said, you'll have to pick us up something to go and bring it to the house. She said, I can't get out no more. But both situations just need prayer tonight. But Jason Miller, if you're listening, and Kim, God bless you guys. We love you. Appreciate you, man. And we're praying for you. And we're sad to hear about your mother. I really am. And so forth. I want to start the show off tonight. A couple of things. And we're grateful all of you are with us tonight. Really, it really means that. Mean that sincerely. And we are grateful for you. I'm going to come over here to our, now on the other note, the Americans today and the Aussies had a little soccer game in the World Cup, and the Americans won 2-0 and advanced to the next bracket. They say this is the first time they've done this as quickly into the rocket round, as they call it, in the history. My son, I'm not into soccer. I don't really watch it that much, but I know some people do. My son watches it, Brandon. And he told me today, he said, Dad, he said, this is the best U.S. team I've seen in the World Cup in 3 years. He said, they really played well today. And he said, I was very impressed with them. And he said, they got a shot. And if they was to pull this off, it would be almost like the miracle of 1980 with the hockey team. And I told him, I said, it's in the air. I said, it's just in the air. I said, I don't doubt that this team's going to shock some people. And Australia was a good team. I sort of ragged Cleo a little bit about us winning, but, you know, she was pulling for the Aussies, and I was pulling for our team, and our team won. We don't rub it in. But the Aussies had a good team. I even told her, I said, I thought y'all were going to beat us, honestly. I didn't think we were going to win today, because the Aussies are a very, very good soccer team. And we were without our star player. So this was a good thing today. But what happened afterwards is what I want to show you. The U.S. team, and this is why maybe God's favor is on this team, unlike other teams in the past, but they gathered around the edge of the grass right after the win, and they prayed. And I want you to watch this video. I think that this video is going to play right. Hopefully it does. Here we go. Watch this. That's them praying at the end of the game today. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? That is what we call class. And it was good to see that today. And as I said, they won 2-0, and that was a big deal today. And excited for the team. And congratulations. Congratulations. I want to say this next thing is about that. Nope, that's about Juneteenth. I'm going to start with the Juneteenth stuff. This is Representative Anna Paulina. As I said, this Juneteenth stuff. I'm just a South Georgia boy. This has got to be the stupidest holiday. Stupid. Absolutely insane. Insanity. That we celebrate this crap. This came about in the Obama years and Biden years. Just the last few years, I believe. I think it was Biden that started this crap. But Representative Luna, good lady down in Florida, posted this, and she said 161 years ago, Republican president, not the Democrat president, but Republican President Abraham Lincoln and a Republican Congress freed the slaves from the Democrat Party that fought tooth and nail to keep them in chains. And this woke left, when they established this holiday, they established it on the basis that the Republicans were the ones promoting slavery and that Trump was a tyrant and Hitler and everything else, and he promoted slavery too. Well, let us give you a little history lesson tonight. It was not the Republicans that started slavery, it was the Dems. Not only that, but the Democrats started the Civil War to preserve it. That's why we fought a Civil War. They founded the KKK. Even in the late 60s, folks, in the early 60s, the KKK was marching outside Democrat headquarters in Chicago, keeping anybody out that would force the Democrat Party to give up their racist beliefs. They filibustered the Civil Rights Act, the very act that Lyndon Johnson made that utterly most racial slur you could ever hear in the history of mankind. He was never called a racist by his own party, but he said these somethings would vote for us. We'd have the blanks voting for us for 60 years, and he used a word that I hate to hear people use. And I know it's culture in the South, and there's a few words in the vocabulary that when I hear them, makes me just want to take a bath, and it's one of them, and it's the N word. But they started that word. The Democrats did, the left did, the blacks did. It's what the blacks called each other. And he used that word. They passed the Jim Crow laws. When you hear Clyburn and these black leaders, Sharpton and all this bunch, Jeffrey, saying that holding an ID up is equivalent to the Jim Crow laws, it's just complete ignorance, complete stupidity, and complete racism. You've got Hakeem Jeffries out there. You got Bo Rana telling Maria Bartle and Mona tonight or yesterday or whenever that forcing a voter to show an ID to go vote is racist to women. I didn't know women were a race. I think that's a gender, is it not? But this is what they do. This is what they've been doing. They've been doing it for 161 years. It should not shock us tonight that they do it now. Never changed. So, in Miss Luna's terms, I love this. If you're celebrating this crazy holiday, by the way, thank God we ain't got but 3 more minutes and this day is over. I didn't even think twice about it. I knew there was some people, I think the banks were closed today. It's turned into a federal holiday. It's nuts. It's just nuts. Don't forget to thank Republicans, though. Don't thank the Dems, because it wasn't them that freed the slaves. It was the Republicans. It was the Republicans. And it wasn't the Dem Party that stopped the end of the KKK. It was Republicans. And it wasn't the Dems that were trying to prevent slavery. They were promoting it. Thanks the Republicans. Thank Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln saw this evil, and he felt like it was worthy of fighting a war over to end it, because the Dems would not let it go. And it was a brutal conflict in this country for 4 years, 1861 to 1865. We're coming up on July the 4th. It's the 250th anniversary of our country, but it's also going to be, it's always the 3rd of July the day before the 4th was when we fought Gettysburg, and that was the bloodiest war of the bloodiest conflict of the Civil War. My beautiful wife and I went there last year. I'd been there before, but it was her first time seeing the battlefield there, and even seeing it for the 5th or 6th time in my life. Every time I go there, it's just something that watching those graves and watching the fields and watching the monuments and statues that had been erected to the men and the people that fought it. Our country literally was tearing each other apart over this very thing in that field. And Gettysburg, and this is sort of a side, it's a spiritual situation. There are people that believe that Gettysburg is the most haunted city in America because the most bloodshed we've ever had shed on this land was shed in those fields that my wife and I walked. If you've ever been there, you know what I mean. If you've not been there, I would suggest you take your kids there sometime and talk to them about this. Take your grandkids and talk to them about this. This is why we fought a war. The only time we fought inwardly was to free the slaves from slavery. And so this crazy idea, and the left did it to make political points, to shame the Republicans, to shame people of conservative values. That's what they've always done. And the whole holiday is built upon a lie, that Republicans are the ones that keep people in chains and slavery, and we're the ones behind the slaveries and the slaves. It's completely fallacy and fables and lies. But people tend to believe fallacy, fables, and lies. So that's why we're here every night, to shed light on the truth about these things. So, in case you were on meth today and you were celebrating this travesty of a holiday, just in case you were, thank the Republicans. Thank them. Thank Abraham Lincoln. Thank God for giving the North a victory. I'll tell you what happened. It cost Abraham Lincoln his life. He was assassinated shortly after this war ended. He was assassinated by a Democrat. They're always killing people. They're always killing people that don't agree with them. They claim that the Republicans are intolerant and phobia and everything else, and Christians are intolerant and rigid and bigoted and everything else. But I don't see Christians putting guns to presidents' heads and blowing their brains out in a theater. It wasn't a Christian that killed Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was doing the same thing. He was trying to liberate our young people from the vestiges and the bondages of socialism and communism. It cost him his life. It cost him his life. And as I said, this is a late night show. This is the McFiles. McDonald just is going to be McDonald. And so when you hear your liberal buddies say, "Oh, we celebrated Juneteenth today," you should tell them, thank a Republican. Thank the Republicans. This is Brian Kilmeade this morning. He had something to say about J.D. Vance going after Israel. I actually want to play the clip first of J.D. Vance, and then I'm going to let this play first, and then I'm going to play Brian Kilmeade's comment. Watch this. This is Vance yesterday when he was filling in for Caroline Leavitt at the news conference about Israel. Watch this.
I saw the Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you have seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal, and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at the...
That part, I believe, is somewhat true. That part is true. Trump is sympathetic to Israel. He said it again tonight. This is what we're shaking our head over. I noticed in the chat last night, there was somebody that said my head is spinning over this stuff, and it is spinning because you hear stuff like this from the vice president. Trump was saying just 3 days ago that it was. He even said it again tonight in another interview that if it wasn't for Israel, if it wasn't for Donald John Trump, Israel would have been annihilated. And that is cringeworthy, nothing but arrogance. Donald John Trump is not the reason Israel has not been annihilated. And I remind our president and our vice president, like I did last night again, I hate to be beating a drum. And I promised I wasn't going to come on my show and do this tonight, but I got to do it again. I feel led to say it. The Persian Empire is not going nowhere. The Persian Empire is mentioned in the end-time theology of the Bible as it relates to national Israel. Israel's not going nowhere. These two nations of Israel and Iran they're going to have some brush-ups in the Great Tribulation period. And I'm going to explain that. I don't know if I'll do it on a Bible study next week or maybe Wednesday night next week. But the Lord showed me something today driving, and I'm going to share it with you. I'm not going to do it tonight. Next week. May even do it Sunday night. I don't know. Sunday, if we're not actually Father's Day, we may not be on Sunday night. But anyway, in an upcoming Faith Show, we're going to share some things about the Persian Empire and what's coming. But the one nation that's not mentioned is America. And I love President Trump with a deep respect I've not had for any president in my lifetime. I have so much respect for him. I have respect for J.D. Not a big fan of J.D., but I respect the office. He's President Trump's choice. I respect the office. But this idea, this insane idea that America is the reason Israel is not obliterated, and Trump himself, he didn't even say America, he just said himself. It's fallacy. And it's arrogance. And yes, it's his ego. And it's going to get him in a lot of trouble with the Lord. Not with anybody else but the Lord. Not with me. But it's going to get our nation in a lot of trouble acting like this. And I'm going to repeat what I said last night. I'm willing to give the president his 60 days. I'm willing to give it to him. But saying stuff about Israel like they're doing is not healthy for this country right now. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. I'm going to finish this up because I want you to listen to this in context of what Brian Kilmeade said this morning.
This moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
And JD, no offense, no offense, no offense. I think that works two ways. If I was in the Trump White House, I wouldn't be attacking the only friend we have in the Middle East. And if you and the president think that the Arab world loves this country and respects this country and has our best interests at heart, you are worse than Joe Biden. You've got more dementia than he does. Because this is a two-way street. You can't say these things about Israel and say, well, Israel's got to bow down to us and they should be thankful that we're protecting them, and not recognize the fact that Israel herself has helped America in times of the Middle East. We've stood with America. Whatever America has wanted to do over there against any enemy, Israel has been with us, never against us. Contrary to the Q people and the QAnons and the Dumbanons and the Moronons. And I could use a few other vernaculars to go along with that tonight, except for the anti-Semites. How about let's getting it down to the brass tacks, except for the Jew haters and the people that's got a brain fog about Israel and a dark heart about Israel. If you just talk to reasonably sensible people that know their history and understand history and understand that there has never been a time in Israel's history that she has stood in the way of what America's wanted to do in the Middle East, because we've always had a mutual respect for each other. But J.D. Vance is basically slapping at Israel and saying, hey, you need to get down on your knees and thank us for protecting you. When I got news from Mr. Vance, Israel don't need your protection to be protected. Israel don't need you. Israel don't need us. We need them. We need them. And I know some people out there don't like to hear that tonight. Some people disagree with that. Some people disagree with it. By the way, that promise to Abraham wasn't made to an American nation or American colony. It was made to the nation of Israel, that if you bless me, them that bless you are going to be blessed. Them that curse you are going to be cursed. That wasn't made to America. That wasn't a promise made to our country. No, that's a promise made to Israel and Abraham's seed and descendants. And it wasn't some abhorrent promise in the old covenant that's thrown away now that we're in 2026. No, it's not been thrown away. It's been pushed aside. It's been set aside for a season. But the principle still remains. Israel is the dividing line, and they're the plumb line, and they're the time clock of Bible prophecy. They are the dividing line of the nations. They are right now. People may not see it. They still are, and they will be. But even Iran, to a degree, she's going to be right here during the Great Tribulation period. And America is not mentioned. So when J.D. Vance says stuff like this, I'll leave the comment alone, and I'll let Brian say it.
And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in. Thank you all.
All right, now, there was some truth in that video. Israel does need to recognize that America is her really, when you get down to it, maybe her only friend. But I would say this tonight. With friends like Israel's guide in the White House right now, who needs enemies? Brian Kilmeade said something this morning in light of these comments by Vance yesterday, and I want you to listen very carefully to what Brian. I like Brian. I really like him. I love his show, One Nation. He's a great guy. And I'm hoping this year, if the Lord let me go, I'd like to go to one of his events and listen to him, meet him. He's a good guy. And he had this to say this morning on Fox and Friends. And it's been circulating on the internet all day. Watch this.
J.D. Vance go after Israel yesterday. I wish he would be that tough with Iran. And Israel, if this is the reason they put these talks on hold, Israel had 4 IDF soldiers killed. What do you expect them to do? And if you want them to go along with the plan, you should tell them what's in the plan. They were not even in the talks. All of a sudden, they're roped into it. So it's up to Iran to tell Hezbollah, who does whatever you tell them, to knock it off. And then Israel will knock it off.
In other words, it is not Israel's job to tell Hezbollah to knock it off. It's supposed to be the Iranians' job, but they're not going to do it. And Syria's not going to do it. Nobody's going to do it. This is what Brian was talking about. Israel, by population, is about 1/34 the size of the United States. Hezbollah killed 4 Israeli soldiers last night. If you adjust that for population, that would be equivalent of 136 of our soldiers being killed. How would we react? And there's the story in the Times of Israel. A 4-person IDF tank crew, including a battalion chief, was killed by Hezbollah in South Lebanon last night. This was dated today, but it was really yesterday. 5 soldiers were hurt in this event, including reservist officers who seriously wounded in the same village hours later. IDF says Lebanon reported 18 killed, 33 hurt in an Israeli airstrike since midnight. Trump's out there tonight ranting and raving that Bibi needs to be reined in. I didn't hear one single word that Hezbollah needs to be reined in. I didn't hear one single word that Hezbollah needed to be reined in. And, you know, it is what it is, but I don't agree with it. Let me tell you what Hezbollah has done just since last night. Just since last night. Some of you have not heard this. You won't hear it on the media, but you'll hear it here. Past 48 hours. This is since the great announcement Wednesday night in Versailles, and you saw Donald Trump taking the victory lap with that signature. They've killed 5 Israelis. They've injured 12. They have fired 63 rockets, folks. 63 rockets in 48 hours. They have fired 7 suicide drones. And the X account Vivid, which is a very pro-Israeli account, he asked the question, but he's got one thing wrong in that question. Where's the United States outrage in this? Where's the White House's outrage in this? Where's Trump's outrage? And he's telling Bibi, and I did hear Aaron Cohen tonight. He said, I think Trump wants Bibi just to calm down for about 40 hours. Well, it's been reported tonight that Israel and Hezbollah have agreed to another ceasefire. So we'll see how long that lasts. And it's going to give Trump his 48 hours to get his victory lap in with this Iranian deal. And then Iran's on the clock for the next 60 days to come to the table and agree to get rid of their nuclear weapons. Since the ink was dried on that paper Wednesday night, Iran has not been doing anything but screaming death to America. I'm going to play this video for you, and then I'll explain to you what you're seeing. This happened, I think, just today or yesterday in the Parliament. Now, I'm going to stop that. I don't know if that was today, but that's been recent. But the chief negotiator, I'm going to get my whiteboard out here for you tonight. I'm going to get my whiteboard out. And hang in here with me. We're going to get your thoughts on all this tonight. You see this guy right here? You see this gentleman right here? That's the chief negotiator. That's the chief negotiator of the MOU document that Trump signed. That's the chief negotiator. He's probably one of the few in that bunch that's even still alive right now. But he was there chanting death to America. And I'll just show you this to give this in perspective. I'll just leave it at this. This is from Kushner. See the guy in the glasses and navy blue suit on the left. I think it's this guy right here. Maybe not. I had the wrong guy. Hang on just a second. Let me get my whiteboard up. I had the wrong guy. Navy blue jacket and glasses. So I'm assuming it's this guy right here. It looks more like him, but it's this guy right here. He is the architect behind the agreement that the Iranians put on Trump's desk. That's Mohammed Ghalibaf, a parliament speaker and chief negotiator of the MOU that Vance praised yesterday as not radicalized like the last. In other words, he's not as radicalized as Khomeini. He's literally holding a burning American flag and shouting, "Death to America. Death to America." So, I said this last night. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to give President Trump 60 days. If this is who he wants to deal with, if this is who Vance wants to put their eggs in the basket with, have at it. It's to your demise. It's just, it's absolute fantasy. It is suicide. I was listening to Fox tonight. I have not heard one commentator, and you can't really find many on the left even, that is saying this is, if it's bad for Trump, the left usually rejoices about it, and they praise it. The left's not even praising this. There's not a person on the right except for Rand Paul, and that should tell you everything you need to know about this agreement. Rand Paul is the only senator that I know that's all in about this. Don Jr. is all in about it. Jared Kushner is about it. Steve Wyckoff is on his way to Switzerland. They may sign this piece of paper tomorrow with that same man I just showed you. That was just days ago, screaming death to America. Let me ask y'all a question tonight. I'll go ahead and ask my first question, and then I got some other things I want to show you. Do you really think that he's changed his attitude? He's changed his attitude in 48 hours? Do you think that they have stopped feeling death to America? Do you think that there is been some kind of change of heart with the Iranians? Do you think that they have said, hey, we're going to have a change of plans here. We're not going to burn flags, and we're not going to do anything. I'm just curious. I'm what What do you think about that? What do you think about that? I don't think that they have changed a bit. I don't think they've changed a bit. That is just my opinion. McDonald may be wrong about that, but, let's see, why am I locked in here? Let me try this again. I know what it is. I locked it. I locked the position. That's why. Let me bring my screen up. Do you think that they are, in other words, have they had a change of heart from death to America from 48 hours ago to tonight? That they're getting ready to sign this agreement. If you do, let me know. Taryn, it's more than a conflict of interest. It's more than a conflict of interest. Anyway, I just leave it. I'm trying to not lose my top over this because I promised I wouldn't do it. We're going to follow this. This is Marco Rubio today. This is Marco Rubio about all this today. Marco said it best. Roll tape.
The Iranian Foreign Minister, what he said at the UN Human Rights Commission, accusing the U.S. and Israel of genocide.
Now you can't. Let me stop you right there. You can't hear him because they had the volume low. The reporter's asking Rubio that the Iranian diplomat to the UN got up in the UN today and accused Israel and America of genocide. Yes, these same Iranians that are telling us that they're going to come to the table in 60 days. And he's asking Rubio, he said, what do you think about that, Mr. Secretary of State? Listen to what Rubio said.
Okay. Well, he's an expert in genocide. They're experts in that because, they sponsor terrorism all over the world. And they've killed thousands and thousands of people. Look at the Middle East. Look at the Middle East, guys. Every problem in the Middle East tracks back to Iran. Hezbollah, Iran. Shia militias that are destroying and threatening Iraq, Iran. Hamas, Iran. The Houthis, Iran. Assad when he was in Syria, Iran. Everywhere you turn, they're behind all of it. They are a destabilizing, dangerous, evil force that had to be dealt with. They have to be weakened.
And they still need to be dealt with. And as I said, folks, I'm going to stay with what I said last night. If you was not with us last night, I told the audience, and I'll say this to our Friday night crowd, I think we're all in a wait and see. I think what's maddening, though, is this bipolarism, this bipolar attitude of Trump, that he's out there he praised Israel today. He praised Bibi Netanyahu, called him a warrior, and Bibi's great, and Israel's great, and we've got y'all's back. And then he goes on an interview 10 minutes later and then claims that he's got to rein in Bibi because he's too insane. And I think that has just got everybody shaking their head like, pick a struggle, man. Pick a struggle. Pick a struggle. And but if they want to get in bed with these mullahs and they want to get in bed with this regime, have at it. We've tried to warn them. I think there's a lot of people that's tried to warn them. Ted Cruz has tried to warn them. I'm not a big fan of Mike Pompeo, but Mike Pompeo was out there telling people tonight. And I listened to Aaron Cohen, and he's a Jewish intelligence officer, and he said that he felt like that that this was probably some strategy on behalf of Trump to get Bibi to just calm down for 48 to 72 hours, to give Trump this window to get his deal signed, and then if Hezbollah breaks the ceasefire, then Israel's free to go with it and do what they want to do. That may be true. That may be true. I guess we don't know that just yet. I had is it this one here? No, that's not it. That's something else. But I wanted to read something. This is it right here. This is Mark Zell. This is what I want to read to you tonight, and then I'm going to move on to something else because we got to get going here. I want to take your questions. Are you grateful you're with us tonight? If you are, put some fire in that house. This is Mark Zell, a great X account we've been following recently, and I'm going to read this to you real quick. He said, I've been flooded with questions, and I have too, from the media and other supporters, including my own children, about this question about why President Trump negotiated the MOU and why is he saying the things he is about Israel. He believes, number one, that President Trump has not flipped or abandoned Israel. His support for the Jewish state and the Jewish people is incontestable. I have published a list of what he has done in his first term and thus far in his term. He has decided that winning the November midterms and preventing the Dems from taking control of Congress is of paramount importance, given the certainty that if this were to happen, the opposition will seek to impeach him and derail his administration's foreign and domestic policies for the balance of his second term. That the Democratic Party has lost its collective mind is also incontestable. I'll amen that, Mark. Number 3, because American voters vote their pocketbooks and not security, which is a mistake, but we do, he's right, and foreign policy issues and are tired of wars, in order to have a chance to win the midterms, Trump needs to put the Iran war on pause for the time being, reduce inflation, lower energy and food prices, keep the stock markets booming, stabilize world markets. And this is how he sees American interest at this time. And Mark says, I agree. Number 4, the MOU is only an agreement to negotiate and to maintain a ceasefire for the time being, which is correct. President Trump has all the cards and can determine how much he is willing to ease the U.S. stranglehold on Iran and its proxies, which he said tonight he's not going to do any of that, and we'll see. President Trump excluded Israel, however, from the MOU, which either by design or default gives Israel a free hand to protect its vital national security interests in Lebanon, Syria, and even Iran. In other words, keeping them out of the loop with strategy, because Israel can say, well, we wasn't in on this deal. This is not our deal anyway. This is between America and Iran, which is smart. Number 6, and this is Mark's statement, I don't like the content of the MOU, and I don't either, or the tone of certain statements from the White House defending it, but that's politics in an election year, which is how toxic our elections and our politics have become. The bottom line is that the relationship between Israel and the United States is strong and inviolable, and Israel will protect its interests, and so will the U.S. protect the American public, including 750,000 U.S. citizens that live in Israel. We've nearly got 1 million U.S. citizens over there. Can you believe that? That's a lot of people. Nearly 1 million U.S. citizens live in Israel. And Mark says this is the only explanation that makes sense. He says, I have faith in President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Almighty God. I would have put Almighty God first, Mark. But I get it. He says, have a restful Shabbat, because it is Sabbath over there in Israel tonight, and a great weekend. It's not a bad statement. It's just not a bad statement. And, and that is what Mark Hill said. And I tend to, there's not a thing I heard in there that I disagree with. I think that is exactly what's going on, and it's about politics. But one thing that is very dangerous in that statement that he made, even though I agree with it, we Americans need to take a look at ourselves and ask ourselves, why do we vote with our wallet instead with our brain? And why do we vote with our wallet instead of our heart? Why do we vote with our wallet instead of our convictions of what's true and what's needed? Why are we more concerned about our wallet than we are our security? Because let me tell you this, folks, if our security goes down, it ain't going to matter a hill of beans what's in your wallet. If this country goes down to communist forces and this country loses its way, and I heard a young lady say something tonight, and she said, every time America gets involved in the Middle East, James has said this over and over, every time we've ever gotten involved in the Middle East, it never ends well for America. It just don't. And we're involved in the Middle East. And if Trump wants to hold his nose and hold his breath and say, well, hopefully this 60 days will make Iran come to its senses and she's not going to rear her head and do something stupid and start attacking Israel, he's making a lot of assumptions that I would not be making if I was president. I just wouldn't do it. But I'm not president. I do agree with Mark. I do trust him. I'll trust his instincts on this. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and that's what I asked my audience to do last night. I'm asking you to do it tonight. I may not agree with a lot of the rhetoric, and I don't. And I certainly don't agree with this arrogance that he thinks he's the reason Israel's not been obliterated. I got news for President Trump. That's not in his purview, and that's not in his control. No, that's in God's control. But anyway, I'll leave that alone. We'll be following this story over the next week or 2 or 3, and anyway, and the folks that are saying, I'm ready for Jesus to come get us, let me tell you something. We don't know when Jesus is coming to get us, and we deal with the world that is, not what we want. And we had better understand that we're in this world until he does come. And being that we don't know when he comes, we don't need to be having this defeatist attitude. That's why we do shows like this. That's why we're on this air every night and trying to keep you informed and trying to get you fired up and get you grounded and get you of a sound, sober mind to know this is what's happening, things we need to pray for. Because ultimately that's what, when we talk about these things, we know good and well we can't change many of these things, but we got to pray about it. We got to pray against some of this stuff. We got to pray for some of this stuff. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. All righty, couple of other quick things tonight, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit. Congratulations to our soccer team today. This was a very disturbing thing today. By the way, let me ask y'all this. This is Rubio. Doesn't that not look like a great 2028 ticket right there? That's a great 2028 ticket. I would love to see that union. And DeSantis is Attorney General, maybe. Definitely up there in that cabinet. But that would be a great ticket, Rubio and Hexteth. And they are right now Israel's best allies. Mike Huckabee is Israel's allies. This story right here, actually I want to talk about something we meant to talk about last night. Mark Hill's statement about the left being completely crazy. Let me show you this, and I'm going to talk about the flag at the end tonight. We reported this last night. There was a teacher in Denver, and I don't know if Vicki is back in Facebook tonight, but she asked this question. She was a new listener. But this is the story.
I move that the board hereby accepts both the...
This is the board in Denver. That lady in the mask is Jennifer Honka. She reportedly made female students kiss each other and graded them on how they did it. And the question is, what's going on in these schools? I can't answer that. But this is the board last night, or 2 nights ago, laying the hammer down. And I think that's her...
I move that the board hereby accepts both the evidentiary and ultimate findings of fact of the hearing officer, the recommendation of the hearing officer that Ms. Jennifer Honka be dismissed on the grounds of incompetence and neglect of duty, and that the board enter its written order as required by TACTA that Ms. Honka be dismissed with immediate effect.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the floor is now open for debate. Seeing none, Ms. Atwood, would you please call roll?
Director De La Rosa? Aye. Director Gaitan?
Aye.
Director Hunter? Aye. Director Klein-Molk?
Aye.
Director Sia?
Aye.
Dr. Torres?
Aye.
Mr. Youngquist?
Yes.
Thank you. With that, the motion passes.
That's a unanimous. The people in Denver couldn't agree if the sun is hot. You can't get a unanimous vote where the water is wet. They unanimously fired her. Maybe some sense is coming back to America. She should have been fired. And I'm going to tell you something. She needs to be criminally charged. That's child abuse. These are minors. These are minors. This is a high school. I'll leave it at that. But that teacher does not just need to lose her license. She needs to be charged. And I'm going to say this to you parents. I'm not lecturing you about your kids, because I'm not Ward Cleaver. I wasn't the most perfect a dad, but one thing I tried to do was keep up with what my kids had going on around them and their surroundings, and making sure they wasn't being taught a bunch of crap in the public school. But as a parent, it behooves you to make sure that your son's or daughter's teacher is not pulling stuff like this teacher in Denver. Now, this Colorado has gone nuts. They're smoking weed and marijuana and all this. But thank God that board, and there was probably some leftists on that board, and I'm surprised that some of them didn't resist this, but they unanimously said she's gone. But I'm saying this to the parents tonight. It's probably not the only incident that's happening in this country, in the school systems. So that's just a little food for thought. But I thought we would mention it tonight. This story here is also perverse. David J. Harris, who is a great guy, I met him. He's a good man. He reported this just tonight. This was 6 hours ago. Folks, this is how perverse our country's got. 61-year-old grandmother has given birth to her own grandchild. You heard me right. She's given birth to her own grandchild to help her gay son become a father. Using her son's sperm, she carried and delivered the baby, becoming one of the oldest women in the country to ever give birth in this way. Now, David Harris says this is just wrong. What do you think? I'll get your thoughts on this later. That is perversion, folks. That's apostasy. That's probably not an isolated incident either. I don't know where this happened, but again, that is sick and perverse. And the left, though, and I want to say this is why I brought this up tonight. The left, if they get in power, they're going to make this legal. If they get in power, they're going to want to make this norm. They already want men in women's lockers. They already want your kids to be told by counselors at school and make it illegal for the parent to stop it if a school counselor tells your 15-year-old girl that she needs to transition to a boy. We got a dear friend in Tallahassee, Florida, January Smith Littlejohn. The Leon County school system did just that. They lost their court case. The court sided with the school system that they had a right to do it. And folks, if this left-wing loon bomb group gets in power, these socialists and these communists, it's gonna be norm in this country. And we cringe at that, and I cringe at that, and I can't even fathom the depth of depravity and the depth of darkness that is right there. But if you think that that's isolated, you're foolish. No, this is probably going on all over the country. This just got reported, but I'm sure that some of this is going on in other parts of the country too. And I don't think it's just happening in an isolated case. We're on the brink of complete, utter depravity and a point of no return when it comes to this sexual identification and gender manipulation and gender mutilation and the absolute demonic force of the LGBTQ, lesbian, homosexual community, neighbor. It's the spirit of Sodom. It is the spirit of perversion. It is an abomination. The people that are bound by this are bound by sin, just like all sinners are, just like all people are without Christ, and even us that are in Christ tonight. If we don't walk in obedience and we don't walk according to the Spirit, we can fall into these sins and we can fall into these things. And we all need prayer. We're all sinners when you get down to it. But this sin, let me tell you something, God did not burn Sodom and Gomorrah down for stealing. He didn't burn Sodom and Gomorrah down for anger. No, this specific sin was the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah. And when you take a woman, what possesses a mother? What possesses a mother to have her gay son give her his sperm, impregnate herself, have his baby so he can raise a baby? And the two gay lovers are going to raise that child. You cannot get more lower and depraved than that. But what my point is, I'm not here to judge that. God is their judge. And I pray they meet Jesus. I do. But what I'm telling you is that kind of lifestyle, that kind of stuff that you just heard is going to become normal in this country, and they're going to legalize it, and anybody that speaks out about that, they're going to prosecute them. That's what the left wants. And you say, well, I don't believe that, Chris. I don't believe the left wants that. Well, let me let you listen to Don Lemon talk to Kamala Harris tonight about what is going to happen if Mrs. Kamala runs for re-election in 28. Is she going to hold people accountable?
I'm not a politician, but I think that the people who deserve to be prosecuted or whatever it is for misusing the Justice Department and abusing, I believe, American citizens and American politicians, whether you want to say political rivals or whatever, I think that they should face, some sort of justice.
Oh, well, I absolutely believe that. And I believe that there should be there should be accountability.
But how does that look like in a legal realm?
And especially for people in the highest roles of power and authority, those who abuse their power and authority should be.
Now, in Kamala's world, the people that are abusing their authority and power would be people that would address that woman's situation and make what she did illegal. Folks, to me, that is so perverse. We should not be allowed to do that in this country. I don't care how free we are as a nation. A nation cannot survive doing stuff like this. We cannot survive spiritually. We can't survive. We just can't. We can't survive morally allowing this. We just can't. But she's wanting to prosecute anybody that calls that out wrong. When she says people in power, she's talking to you, conservatives and Christians and President Trump supporters. She's talking about us. And Mr. Lemon, who is going to hold my tongue tonight, even though the
held accountable, and there should be consequence.
If you are president, let's just say in 2028 you are elected, will you make sure that there's accountability?
Oh, I believe firmly in accountability.
Yeah, I bet you do, Kamala. She needs to be in jail herself, but I'll leave that alone. I wanted to show you that. That's what's coming, folks, to a town near you if we don't get out and vote these midterms and make sure these Dems don't take power. I'm telling you, this stuff is spreading like wildfire in this country. It is, and again, I mean, I'm speaking right now as the news host tonight. I'm going to speak now as a pastor. I'm going to speak now as a spiritual voice. We don't judge people that are bound by these spirits. We love them. I want to see them saved. That's the only answer for that. What you just saw on that screen, the only answer for that is Jesus Christ. That's the only thing we can do. Even if we made it illegal, it's not going to stop it. But we've got to protect the kids. What I'm mad about is that baby. That baby does not need to be raised by two men. And that baby is the one that is going to pay the cost. And that it's not the baby's fault what happened. But there is no way on God's green earth that those two men should be raising that child. It's just not. That is why this is important. It's the kids. This is why this is important. The kids. This is why it's important. And Rosemary, incest is against the law. And CJ, I'm going to ask you again, buddy. I love you to death. I told you the questions at the end. You've done it 3 times. Listen, wait, hold off. Not right now. Not mean to call you out, but listen, just listen. I'm almost done. Questions at the end. Mary, it is incest. Even if it's used in the way it was, to me that is incest. To me that is perverse that she used the son. But the child that came from it is not good. All right, a couple of other quick things, and then I'll release y'all to start talking. And I'm not trying to be a killjoy about it. This is Max, the gentleman that talked about Israel, talked about the left being crazy. Do you realize that only 27% of the Democrats and the left are going to display the American flag on July the 4th? And I heard tonight that only 40% of the country right now is going to actually celebrate July the 4th. Only 40% of Democrats will celebrate July the 4th. Forget the flag. I mean, they're scared to display an American flag. That's not even a third. But I want to read you something. Here. I think this is it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is May's. And This is Mays. And again, I'm not trying to be snotty out there, but please, just give me a few minutes and I'm almost done. And I'm going to open it up and you can say whatever you want to say. But I want to read this. Trump has been president for 17 months. During that time, the left has rioted in California, attacked police, ICE agents, National Guard. They destroyed buildings and vehicles. While LA was burning, the media told us that these were peaceful protests. They repeated and viciously attacked ICE agents, including shootings at agents and storming ICE facilities. Democrat politicians repeatedly equated ICE agents, and they're still doing it, to Nazis and the Gestapo. The Dems have forgot the deportation of anyone or fought it here illegally, including drug dealers and human traffickers. Democrats went so far as to travel abroad. Van Hollen went down to Central America to locate the criminals to bring them back. They've held 24-hour filibuster sessions, crying sessions, during which they claimed that the end of democracy had arrived because of Trump. They firebombed Tesla dealerships, attacked Teslas and their owners. They wiped feces on these vehicles, while Democrat politicians openly rooted for Tesla to fail and call Elon Musk a Nazi, to shut down the government, the only result being pain to the country. They attempted to assassinate Trump again. You do realize that this situation last Saturday night in D.C. with the fight, folks, that was an assassination attempt. That's fourth. If you want to count that, this is almost 4 times they have tried to kill him because they were wanting to storm the White House, according to this manifesto. They murdered Charlie Kirk and celebrated as if. They're still doing it. Still mocking him, still mocking his widow. Democrat politicians defamed and smeared him before he even was buried. And coming up on a year, they're still doing it. The left has opposed any and all celebrations of America and patriotism. Some leftists have even planned mass murder and assassinations during the recent celebration at the White House just a few days ago. By the way, speaking of monuments, do you realize that that Trump, as wonderful a job as he's done with that reflection pool, they had to go out and redo it. You know why? Because some left-wing loon took some algae, some bacteria spreading algae, and poured it in the river to contaminate it. And I don't have time to talk about CNN tonight, but the Crap News Network won't investigate the fraud. They won't investigate corruption in their party and the things that they should be. But they sent a reporter down there to complain about the conditions in the reflection pool. Opposed and obstructed all investigations into the massive amounts of fraud that's been happening nationwide for years. These people have held group therapy sessions called No Kings rallies, during which they flooded the streets to resist an imaginary king. They went back to trying to counsel athletes or celebrities who support the president. They have falsely smeared Trump as a pedophile daily. You've got people literally on the air saying Trump's a pedophile, that he's raped young girls, with no accountability, no blowback from the media, no blowback from anybody. Democrat Congressman Ted Lieu even went on TV and claimed that Trump rapes and kills children. Accused the president of lawfare while simultaneously promising to arrest people in the Trump administration if the left gets back in power. This is just some of the insanity, and it is just some, there's a lot more, that the left has unleashed on the country over the past year and a half, just 17 months. The left are violent, they are emotionally unstable, they refuse to accept losing elections, and the next 2.5 years are going to be wild. But let me say this to all of us tonight. We better get out of them polls, and we better vote. We better be registering to vote now, and we need to make sure these people don't see the light of day politically. We have got to understand that. We got to understand that. We've got to understand that. We've got to understand that. 27%. Isn't that just peachy? Isn't that just peachy? Let's see. Anything else here tonight? I think that's going to do it for tonight on the videos. A couple of just side things. I want to show you, this is really not about politics, but I mentioned this ball team that forfeited the game. The minor leagues, they wouldn't wear the pride jerseys. And this is one of the athletes of the WNBA, Lily, and I don't know her last name, but she says, I don't care if the whole world calls me controversial. Forcing athletes to wear an LGBT symbol turns sports into a political circus. I am Sophie Cunningham, that's who she is, I'm sorry. I play for my fans, for my team, and for the game, not for any movement. I couldn't have amened that better, Sophie. Good for you. You're probably going to get fined by your league because they believe in doing that stuff, but good for you. By the way, I mentioned Illinois last night. Look at this statistic, folks. This is crazy. I'm a weather person, and I don't know about you Illinois folks, what's going on up there, but y'all have done something, because there has been a churning of the atmosphere. We've had 952 tornadoes since the first of the year. And the top 6 states, if you notice, there's only 2 states, really 3, that's in the Midwest, Missouri, Iowa, and Kansas. And that's really the traditional tornado alley. Illinois, 166. 166. Mississippi, 83. Missouri, 76. Iowa, 63. Kansas, 52. And Indiana, 51. Indiana, 51. 32 tornadoes of these have been above EF2 strength. That's 120 miles an hour or more. And you can look at California. California's had quite a few this year. It's unusual. California don't get many, but they've had 6. And if you notice, southeast Alabama has had quite a few, but there's that concentration area up there at the very top. Boy, that stares out like a sore thumb. And I'll just do the whiteboard here. We actually had to do a weather special this week because of this very thing. But let me get my camera. Let me bring this up so we can look at it. Yeah, but this right here, it stares out like a sore thumb right in the middle of the country right there. That right there, man, oh man, right there, 166 tornadoes. And this area of the country normally don't get that many. The 166 is Illinois' total for 3 or 4 years combined sometimes. But there's something going on. I got my opinions about that. I won't share them all tonight. But when you reject God and you let darkness in, darkness comes your way. All righty, I am done. I've got about 10 minutes. I've been giving you time to listen to me. Now I'm going to listen to you. If you got any questions, any statements, good to see Pastor Mr. Randy William Griffin's in the house tonight. Randy, good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. And we're grateful for all you guys that are with us tonight. And we've got a pretty decent crowd. We got a good crowd tonight to be on a Friday night late. Now I'm going to come back over here. Your turn. I've said my piece and watch nobody want to say nothing now that I'm not talking. You got any questions, any comments? Go for it. Your turn. Someone says, do you think the president needs to watch his mouth when he speaks more of what he thinks he controls or makes happen? Well, of course. Carol Smith, good to see you. Your question's not off topic, actually. She says, your thoughts on Canada banning the Bible, that's a red line with me, should be with Canadians. Carol, any nation that does that, I don't care who it is, and they've been sort of hinting around this for a long time. This has sort of been teetering, and it's going to invite a lot of darkness. It's inviting disaster, honestly. I mention Africa from time to time. Africa's called the Dark Continent. And one of the things that is causing Africa to be so dark is the lack of light. That's what darkness is. It's the lack of light. And when a nation rejects light, a nation in turn is automatically inviting darkness to its doorstep. I can't say that the Lord's told me anything specifically about Canada and things that are coming. I'm just speaking in general terms here tonight, but I will tell you that is not good for any country and any nation. Canada needs to be ashamed of itself. But again, it's the times we're living in. It's the time. It's really what we talked about Wednesday night. The mystery of iniquity. This is what it's inciting. This is what the mystery of iniquity is inciting. And I think it's a red line too. I'll agree with that. Someone asked me about the impeachment. The Dems are definitely going to impeach him. I do believe they will. Anything in Facebook tonight? Good to see Mary Sullivan. Mary, good to see you. Tracy Geary, Joan, good to see you tonight. Randy Griffin, good to see you, buddy. Been a while. Marianne Franklin, good to see you. She says, I'm not surprised. Or I'm actually surprised. I'm not sure, Mary, what you're referring to there. Chris is surprised all the time, too. Any questions, folks? Now, listen, I'm giving you a chance to talk. It's inevitable. While I'm talking, everybody wants to talk. And when I give you a chance to talk, nobody wants to talk. Susan, she says, I think the earth is responding or reacting to such sin, which could be causing these weather-crazy, deadly patterns. The earth is groaning under this sinful pressure, and she's got a question mark. Susan, that's how I feel. That's what I feel is happening over our country right now. Look, folks, there is some serious spiritual warfare going on over this nation. There is no doubt about it. There is some serious spiritual warfare going on over every state of this union. But if you think about it, and one of the bigger states in our union that has got the most evil and the most things going on in it, the two bigger states are California and Illinois and New York. Those three states. They had tornadoes in New York yesterday. I was watching a video of one of them did damage up there in the New England area. New England don't get tornadoes. They get a few every now and then through the years. That's not tornado country. They have been under the gun this year. Unusually high amount of tornadoes. And I'm going to just go ahead and go out on a limb here. I had an acquaintance. He wasn't a friend, but he was an acquaintance, wrote a book. Two of them did. William Koenig wrote another book similar to his, but Koenig and him basically has drawn parallels that whenever there is a pro-homosexual event, a pro-abortion event, or we hurt Israel, there's always repercussions in the weather over the nation and judgment. And if you think about the severe weather that we've had in June, because we've had a wild June. June has not been a normal month weather-wise. We normally get these storms in May. We had a very tapped down weather period from March to May when the tornadoes should have been forming. We didn't have that many. We had about 4 events. I went back and checked, and there were only about 4 severe weather events from March to Memorial Day. But when June rolled around, I mean, man, it was like the lid just got lifted off and boom. And I'm going to just say this. If you look back at the timetable of that and the comments that President Trump and J.D. Vance and some, not all, but some in that White House were making about Israel, and you look and tie that into the correlation of the timing of these storms, you're going to see a connection. You're going to see a connection. Now that's just a thought. Just a thought. Something to think about. Susan, your point is square on. Regardless of whether it's Israel or anything else, the earth is a shaking, and this country is a shaking, and there is a shaking over this country that is unprecedented right now, and it's going to get worse. 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 It really is. Anyway, Taryn, you said the question, she says, Chris, what are your thoughts on why America is not mentioned during the end times? Taryn, that's a great question. It would take me a whole show to answer that, I'll give you the short version. We're going to do a special Wednesday night of next week on prophecy, and maybe Sunday night or one of these Sunday nights soon. I can't fully answer why, but I will tell you we're not. And I think a lot of it is the rapture of the church. And I'll explain this real quick. We still right now, despite all of our problems, despite all of our difficulties, despite everything that we got going on, we still have the greatest number of Christians on the planet that live on the earth, live right here in America. We still have the greatest, highest Christian population. When the Lord comes back, and He's coming for the church, He's coming with the church. There's a 7-year period in between the two comings. That 7-year period is what we know as Daniel's 70th week. It's the Great Tribulation period, according to Daniel 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, Jeremiah 30, Ezekiel 38 and 39. Isaiah has some references to it. Revelations chapter 6 all the way to chapters 19. Jesus in Matthew 24, 25, especially Matthew 24, talks about the Great Tribulation, things that will take place there. Paul alludes to the Antichrist in 2 Thessalonians. But if you think about it, Trina, if we've got the greatest number of Christians here, and the rapture occurs tonight, and I'm talking about true Christians, I'm not talking about these fake ones and these professing ones that act like the devil and claim they got faith and are ugly and hateful and so forth. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the true believers. I still believe we've got the greatest number of true believers on this earth in this country. If you take that out, if you take that element out of our country, what's left? What's left? The only thing that will keep this country from imploding, let me change the phrasing of that. The only thing that is keeping this country from imploding, the stuff I just read to you about the lady and the boy, the son, the thing I read to you about the teacher, the only thing that's not causing this country to go full-blown that perverse and full-blown that evil is the church and the prayers of the saints. And we're going to have a Watch of the Lord, another one, before the 4th of July. I'm looking at a calendar, and we will announce it soon. We have a Friday night prayer watch from time to time that we just start at midnight, and we go all the way. I almost did it tonight. Came this close from doing it tonight, but I didn't announce it, and I wanted people to be aware of it. And I almost did a Saturday night gospel sing tonight, but I felt like I needed to talk about this Israel thing again. But to answer your question, friend, you take the Christian element out of America, this country is going to implode in itself. And it is quite possible, one of three things, there's three scenarios that I believe can happen. And I'm not saying I know which one these are yet. I don't think anybody does. Number one, we could morally implode just like Rome did and destroy ourselves, and there'd be no more America. And there'd be total chaos, total anarchy, and no law, and just it turns into a war zone. Civil war will destroy us. Anyway, number two, a foreign power would see our weakness and invade us and take it over. And number three, and this is where my dad sort of fell, we got Father's Day this weekend. I may do something Monday night since it's Father's Day weekend. My dad and I did a show together right before we passed about prophecy, but my dad believed that a natural disaster was going to basically hit this country and we were going to be removed. And he didn't just bring that off the top of his head. He believed the earthquake that is mentioned in Revelation 16, where the islands of the sea, the Bible says the islands of the sea fled away. Well, if you look at a map and you look at a globe and you look at Canada, America, Central America, and South America, we're one big island. We got the Atlantic, Pacific, the Gulf, and the Antarctic Ocean over us. We're an island. We're covered by 4 bodies of water. He believes that when that happens, this earth is going to come one landmass, and whatever is in the sea, because that's what the Bible says, the islands of the sea fled away. And that's what he believes. I can't tell you what scenario is going to happen. I do know this, and I'll close it on this tonight. The last superpower on this earth before Christ comes back will be the kingdom of the beast. It will not be America. America is not mentioned in Bible prophecy. Having said that, we know two things. Israel will still be here. Persia, which is modern-day Iran, will still be here because Persia is going to throw her lot in with the Antichrist in attacking Israel in the midpoint of the Great Tribulation and at Armageddon. And at Armageddon, which is the war and the battle that's going to be raging before Christ comes back to rescue Israel. So, having said all that, to put all this together in a neat bow, and it took me more than 5 minutes, but America not being here indicates that something's got to happen to us to remove that superpower status. I heard Vance mention that word superpower in his comments. I want to say this, folks, as we get close to celebrating 250 years. Our freedom is a privilege. Our freedom is a privilege. It's not something that we should just get up every morning and think that we're entitled to. Our freedom is a gift from God. And we basically take it for granted the way we act as citizens. We just throw it to the side. We don't fight for it. We have no thought about it, that we can just get up one morning and our freedoms be gone. Most people don't give that a second thought. We just think God's entitled to give it to us because we're Americans. And He's not. But when the church is gone, the only thing that's keeping this country from complete depravity and chaos is the church. Is the church. It is the church. And that's sad. And I'll leave it at that. Anyway, that help you, Taryn? Nice name. I like that. Taryn Hawkins. I hope that answered your question. That did put some fire in that house. Scenic, you say you're disappointed with Trump's handling with Iran. I'm going to say this. I said this last night. I'll say it again tonight before I close. Give it time. I'm not happy with the rhetoric. There are some things that Trump is doing that's right. And he's saying is right. JD, in that video, not everything he said I disagreed with. My problem is they are trying to push Israel into a place of not defending herself when one of Iran's proxies are attacking her. Israel cannot sit back and not defend herself. I don't care how Iran manipulates us, telling us that if they do that, they're going to not come to the table. I wouldn't let the Iranians manipulate me. That is nothing but manipulation. Spiritual witchcraft, to be frank with you. But I'm willing to trust the president. I'm going to give him 60 days. We'll see how this plays out. You may be ultimately proven right. But I would say just be patient. Pray, 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 pray. And then pray some more. Then pray some more. All righty, I'm done. Did you get something out of this tonight? Put some fire in that house. Taryn, I hope I answered your question. It is good to see all you folks over in Facebook tonight. It's good to see all you folks in YouTube. Good to see all you folks in X. We're grateful for you. And I tell you what, I want to thank all of you for being with us tonight. For a late night show, we sure did have a lot of folks up with us. You folks must be bored to listen to this redneck southerner at 1 o'clock in the morning. But it's time for me to go to bed. I love you all. Listen, I'll see you back here Saturday morning. I just want to say this, because some of you won't be with me Sunday. Not Saturday, but Sunday. I want to say a happy Father's Day to all of you. I want to say a happy Heavenly Father Day to that man right there. He died back in 2021. That's my father, the late Reverend Wayne McDonald. That was his 50th celebration of his ministry for 50 years. And I love that picture. I've always loved that picture of us together. That sums our relationship up. I sat on the front row of that church of his as a little boy up to the time I left the house. He's always been my mentor. He's so missed. I miss him every day. there have been some bumps and some warfare that I've been through over the last 5 years, and I have missed his advice and missed being able to pick that phone up and call him and saying, Dad, I need your help. And but I want to just say that I'm grateful that I'm the son of the late Reverend Wayne McDonald, and my mom too, the late Margie Turnage McDonald. And I know a lot of you are fathers out there. I want to wish you a very, very happy Father's Day. If you're not with me Sunday morning, we're going to have communion Sunday morning. We're going to have a short message on Father's Day and to encourage the dads. So be with us probably around 8:30, 8:45 Sunday morning, because we're going to be in Grand Ridge Sunday. And but listen, we're grateful for you tonight, and I want you to enjoy your weekend. Take Dad out this weekend. Call your father up and tell him how much you love him. Tell him how much you're blessed to have him as your dad. You say, well, my dad wasn't a good dad. Well, call him up and tell him anyway. Forgive him. Forgive him. Put it under the blood. Don't hold it against him. I tell my sons all the time, you're going to be a dad one day. Brandon is. Brandon's finding out that papahood ain't a science. It's a little bit more complicated than what he may have thought it was growing up watching his old man operate. Just like I've realized as a father watching him operate that my dad was right on most things. I didn't think he was right when I was growing up, but as I've gotten older and I'm a dad now, I've realized my dad was right on a lot of things, and I love him, and I do miss him tonight, and as we've always done for 5 years now since he's been gone. But happy Father's Day. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. I love you all tonight. I really do. Thank you for being with us, and come on back and be with us next week. We've got some great guests. Our prayers for the Miller family tonight. Jason Miller, if you're listening, buddy, I love you, man. Praying for your family during this time of loss. And we'll see you back here over the weekend and next week with shows again on the news side and some faith shows. A lot of faith coming up as we approach the 250 celebration. We're going to celebrate our nation, pray for our nation, intercede for each other, love each other out there, pray for each other. I hope we've encouraged you tonight. Be blessed out there and have a good night now.